Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Church in Fall River, Mass.
Welcome to the Unitarian Church in Fall River, where we think religious questions are important, but we want to work out our own answers, where we gather to share ideas and support one another. We gather this hour as people of faith, having sorrows and joys and needs and gifts. We like the beacon of hope as a sign of our quest for truth and meaning and in celebration of the life we share together. I also lit a candle on an Advent wreath. Our guest preacher next week is Claire Donaldson, who belongs to a Unitarian church in Salem, I think, which it's it's more concerned with staying in contact with its Christian roots than most Unitarian churches are. And they have an Advent wreath there. And Claire asked, do you folks have an Advent wreath? And Eric said, well, yeah, we do. We haven't used it for years, but I think I can find it. So we got it out. And so I've lived, this is the first Sunday of Advent, the 4-week time leading up to Christmas. It'll be there for Claire next week, and she can put in and light the second candle. It's, I'm not a big one for traditional Christian ritual myself, but it's kind of nice to have something connected to Christmas that isn't commercial, you know? So, could we join please in our opening hymn number 47? It's by our former minister, Samuel Longfellow. I don't think we've ever sung it because it's made to be sung for a Vesper service, an evening service. And of course, it's not evening, but it's kind of the evening of the year. You know what I mean? The days are getting shorter. And it's a nice hymn. So if you don't mind, I'd like to sing it. Number 47, Now on Land and Sea Descending. Please stay standing and join in the affirmation in the order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine, thus to be covenant with each other and with God. Please be seated. For an invocation today, I want to tell you about a Zitz comic strip. There's a comic strip about a teenage boy named Jeremy and his relationship with his parents. It's called Zitz, Z-I-T-S. It's in the Boston Globe. And the strip I want to tell you about, Jeremy and his mother have just gotten together and gotten his dad a new smartphone. And Jeremy is saying to his dad, "Dad, check out this phone. You can surf the internet, you can text, you can watch TV, and talk to somebody all at the same time. With that thing in your hand, you won't spend a second of your life unconnected." And in the last panel, the dad has gone down to the edge of the lawn where there's a large patch of woods, and he's throwing the phone with all his might into the woods. There's a potluck next week. Diane, I forgot how we agreed to do this. Was it now or later? Now. Eric Darling has had a heart attack and is in Charlton Memorial Hospital. And it was a serious heart attack. And you shouldn't rush out and visit today, because out-of-town people have come in to visit. His son, Stephen, and his other son is Alec? Aaron, I'm sorry. Aaron have both come to town. And Diane and Allison probably will be spending time with him too. And they only let 2 people into the cardiac care unit, so we should back off for a day or 2. So he's a self-effacing man who, more than any other single person, is responsible for the fact that this church still exists. You know, there's no question about it. So. Did I say there's a potluck next week? Yes. I did, okay. Are there other announcements?
So good morning, everyone. I hope everybody had a lovely Thanksgiving. Leftovers are almost done. Thank you, Richard, for leading us in worship this morning. And as Richard said, our guest minister next week is Claire Donaldson, and her title is "What is Advent?"
Other announcements? Okay.
We are collecting, right? We are still collecting winter gear for the homeless, sweaters, hats, gloves, things that are going to be good for the winter.
More
we can
things.
disperse love in the community.
I don't have a prayer today. I have a meditation. This is by Henry David Thoreau from his book Walden, which, if you're not familiar with Thoreau or Walden, this is a man who lived in Concord, Massachusetts, and who in 1845, beginning several summers, lived in a cabin in the woods in Concord to kind of get in touch with his inner self, I guess, more than anything else. This is from Walden. I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I wish to learn what life has to teach, and not, when I come to die, discover that I have not lived. I do not wish to live what is not life, living is so dear, nor do I wish to practice resignation unless it is quite necessary. I wish to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. I want to cut a broad swath, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. If it proves to be mean, then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world. Or if it is sublime, to know it by experience and to be able to give a true account of it. Let us now be silent together to create an opportunity for prayer or meditation. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the air. Giving life a shape of justice. Hold me close, wings free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Hamlet's Blackberry is a book that came out about 15 years ago about how connected we've all become on the internet and with our phones and so on. In the last few decades, we found a powerful new way to pursue busyness. Computers and smartphones are often pitched as solutions to our stressful, overextended lives, and in many ways they do make things easier, reducing the time and trouble it takes to communicate and perform important tasks. But at the same time, they link us more tightly to all the sources of our busyness. Our screens are conduits for everything that keeps us hopping, both mandatory and optional, both worthwhile and silly. If you have a mobile number, an internet browser, and an email address, endless people and organizations are within your reach, and you are within their reach. Even the places where we used to go to get away from the crowd and the burdens it imposes are now connected. The simple act of going out for a walk is completely different today from what it was 15 years ago. Whether you're walking down a big city street or in the woods outside a country town, if you're carrying a mobile device with you, the global crowd comes along. A walk can still be a very pleasant experience, but it's a qualitatively different experience simply because it's busier. The air is full of people. Someone you know has just seen a great movie. Someone else had an idle thought that they wanted to share. There's been a suicide bombing in South Asia. Stocks soared today. A pop star has a painful secret. Someone has a new opinion. Someone's in a taxi. Please support this worthy cause. The boss needs that report from you. Where is it? Someone wants you to join a discussion. A manhunt is on for the killers. Try this in bed. Someone's enjoying sorbet. Your account is now overdue. Easy, chicken pot pie. Here's a brilliant analysis. Latest video from our African safari. Someone responded to your comment. Time's running out. Apply now. Look at my new hair. Just heard an awesome joke. Someone is working hard on a big project. They had their baby. Click here for the latest vote count. The father of Jeremy, the guy who threw his phone into the woods, he's what we call an old fogey, right? We use the word fogey to talk about someone who's a little behind the times, technologically speaking, especially. New technology tends to promote fogeyism. I can remember when television was new. When I was 5 years old, there was only one family in the neighborhood that I knew of that had a TV. And it was interesting, the screen was perfectly round. And then we got a TV. And then, within a few years, everyone had a TV. And by the time I was 10 or so, I was reading the newspapers and reading all the columns talking about how television is rotting the minds of our youth. And this happened back when radio was new in the 20s. People wrote columns about how radio was going to rot the minds of our youth. And it happened when movies were new, about 1910. And I think it probably happened when the telephone was new in the 1870s and 80s. I was delighted to find an account of a fogey who was complaining about the invention of writing. When writing was new, there were fogies complaining about it. This is in Plato's dialogue, the Phaedrus, and one of the, so this was published, this was written about 400 BC, okay, 400 BC, 2,400 years ago. And one of the members of the conversation believes that it was the Egyptians who invented writing. That was his understanding. And he said, this made the Egyptians wiser and gave them better memories. It helps both the memory and the wit. And then one of the other members of the conversation, and this is the fogey, replied, no, the inventor of something is not always the best judge of its utility. In this instance, you've been led to attribute to writing a quality which it cannot have. The discovery of writing will create forgetfulness in the learner's souls because they will not use their memories. They will trust to the external writing and not remember by themselves. The thing you have discovered is not an aid to memory, but to reminiscence. And you give your students not truth, but only the semblance of truth. They will be hearers of many things and will have learned nothing. They will appear to be omniscient and will generally know nothing. They will be tiresome company, having the show of wisdom without the reality. It's true. If you write, you don't have to remember things. The irony, of course, is we only know about what this fogey said because Plato wrote it down. Old fogies have to adjust and they worry about their kids. Today, fogeyism is mostly about connectedness. There's a new book called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, or Haidt. It's H-A-I-D-T. It's the way he spells his last name, H-A-I-D-T. He's a very well-respected scholar, Jonathan Haidt. The book is called The Anxious Generation. And he says, since the generation that has been exposed from early childhood to smartphones, and that happened about 2010, have grown up to be much more anxious, to have many more psychological problems than earlier generations. And it's because of these screens that they always have in front of their face. And I suppose it's true. If you spend all your time looking at a screen, it's hard to think deeply or feel deeply. It's hard to suck all the marrow out of life, as Thoreau put it. It makes you distracted and superficial. Someone once said to me, look at the smartphone. He holding up a smartphone. He said, look, this connects us to all of human knowledge. And we use it to watch cat videos. Connectedness is good, though, I think. Sometimes it's good. You gain energy by being connected with other people. A lot of people, especially people who are extroverts, actually think while conversing with other people. They get energy from other people. Those of us who are introverts, like me, most ministers are introverts, incidentally. Even though we talk a lot in public, we're introverts mostly, which is to say, not that we don't like people, but that people tire us out. and to let the wells fill up again, we have to be alone for a while. But even introverts benefit from the connectedness that smartphones, et cetera, bring us. The trouble is when you don't take any time alone to go deep. Thoreau is often considered a hero by fogies, right? Fogies idealize this guy in his cabin in the woods, completely unconnected to anybody. He actually isn't a hero for fogies, and that's really my message. He was a user and admirer of new technology. He was, for one thing, a surveyor. He made money dealing with very complicated angle measuring instruments and distance measuring instruments. He made his living as a surveyor. His family owned a pencil factory in Concord that was founded, I think, by his grandfather, and he was involved in it as a businessman. In fact, he was an inventor. According to Wikipedia, this is all I know, Wikipedia. According to Wikipedia, Thoreau himself came up with a new design for the pencil involving new materials, mostly the black thing in the middle was a new design, a new combination of things, a new way of manufacturing pencils, and that during Thoreau's lifetime, the Thoreau pencil was the best pencil in the United States, according to Wikipedia. He wasn't antisocial. When fogies celebrate him as a hero, they think of him as a hermit in that cabin. But he went to town every day. He went to town every day. This is from Walden. After hoeing, this is when he's talking about his time in the cabin. After hoeing my garden, or perhaps reading or writing in the morning, I usually bathed again in the pond. He would begin every day by bathing in the pond, swimming. But after working all morning, he'd bathe again in the pond, swimming across one of its coves. And I washed the dust of labor from my person, and I smoothed out the last wrinkle which study or writing had made in my mind. And my afternoon was absolutely free. Every day, sometimes skipping a day, but mostly every day, I strolled to the village, downtown Concord, to hear some of the gossip, which is incessantly going on there, circulating either from mouth to mouth or from newspaper to newspaper, and which, taken in small doses, was really as refreshing in its way as the rustle of leaves and the peeping of frogs. He did this virtually every day. The village appeared to me a great newsroom, a great newsroom. Let's see if I can find this. This is how he went to the village. The Fitchburg Railroad, newly constructed. He went to the cabin in 1845, and the Fitchburg Railroad had been constructed about 10 years before. Railroads were new. The Fitchburg Railroad touches the pond about 100 rods south of where I dwell. I usually go to the village along its causeway. He walked to the village along the tracks, and am, as it were, related to society by this link. The men on the freight train who go over the whole length of the road bow to me as to an old acquaintance. They pass me so often, and apparently they take me for an employee. The train was new. That was a new technology in Thoreau's younger days, 10 or 12 years earlier. And with the train, think about before the train, news traveled at the speed of horses. News traveled at the speed of horses. So news from, say, Syracuse, New York, if you live in Concord, you might hear about it 2 days later, 3 days later, something like that. With the train, if something had just happened in Syracuse as someone was boarding the train and they got off in Concord, I don't know if the route from Syracuse goes through Concord, but let's say it does. Someone might get off in Concord the same day, many hours later, but the same day. And you could find out in Concord Syracuse news from that morning. That was an amazing change. That was an amazing change. And then came the telegraph. The telegraph. In Thoreau's journal, not in Walden, he talked about walking to town along the tracks, and he said, as I went under the new telegraph wire, which was alongside the tracks, I heard it vibrating like a harp high overhead. I don't think it really was vibrating. If it was vibrating, it was with the wind. It wasn't with the messages. It was as the sound of a far-off, glorious life. The telegraph was brand new. There's a book about the history of the telegraph, which I enjoyed very much, and whose author, I can't remember the name of the author, but the title of the book was The Victorian Internet. The Victorian Internet. And there's a lot of truth to that. You could get a message, now this is Morse code, right? Relayed from town to town over the wire. You could get a message about Syracuse news within maybe an hour in Concord. I mean, this was just stunning. This was stunning. This was as stunning to these people as instant messaging is to us, you know, or maybe more so. About the telegraph, he was a little jaundiced, though. He said, we're in great haste to construct a telegraph from Maine to Texas. This is in his journal. But Maine and Texas may have nothing important to communicate. I like that. Thoreau was a transcendentalist. Transcendentalists believe that true enlightenment doesn't come from other people or outward sources like organized religion or science or even books. It comes from within. The profoundest truths of existence are available to each of us, but through intuition and reflection, when we're alone and not connected. Thoreau's friend Emerson said, to be truly happy and productive, you have to tune out the crowd and listen to the voices that you can only hear in solitude. I think overconnectedness really is a problem. It certainly affects me. My own personal Walden is after a day of mostly sitting at the computer, I mean, apart from housework or yard work, mostly sitting at the computer and being connected with a bong as each new email arrives, which I then, of course, have to check. I find if I walk into, this is a tangent, I find if I walk into a room in which a television is playing, I have to look at it. I can't not look at it. I think it's something to do with how we're evolved, right? We're still alive because we tended to notice things moving, things that might be about to attack us. And even when the screen is turned off, you know how easy it is to turn on again. You know, it's Thoreau, of course, said nothing about the internet itself, but I think there's a lesson we can take from Thoreau. He noticed the problem. He noticed the problem. Let me read you. What do I want to read you? I want to read you something. Oh, here. This is his first summer in the cabin. So this is his first time not connected. And earlier he had said that he'd hoe his garden or read or write. Well, he said the first summer he didn't even read. He just hoed his garden and wrote. I did not read books the first summer. I hoed my beans and sometimes wrote. Often I did better than even this. There were times when I could not afford to sacrifice the bloom of the present moment to any work at all, either head or hands. I love a broad margin to my life. That's worthy of a t-shirt. I love a broad margin to my life. Sometimes in a summer morning, having taken my accustomed bath, swim across the cove, I sat in my sunny doorway from sunrise until noon, wrapped in a reverie amid the pines and hickories and sumacs in undisturbed solitude and stillness, while the birds sang around or flitted noiseless through the house, until by the sun finally falling in at my west window, or by the noise of some traveler's wagon on the distant highway, that's Route 2, I was reminded of the lapse of time. He spent the whole morning just sitting motionless, doing nothing, just letting thoughts come and go. I grew in those seasons like corn in the night. Corn during the growing season can be taller in the morning than it was the previous afternoon. It's growing so fast. I grew in those seasons like corn in the night, and they were far better than any work of the hands would have been. These times were not times subtracted from my life, but so much over and above my usual allowance of time. I don't do anything so colorful, but after a long day of being distracted with the computer, I finally turn it off, not just asleep, off at about 6. And I turn my phone off, not just quiet, off. And what I really want to do is take a nap. I'm tired now. But I try not to nap because then I'll have trouble getting to sleep later. So I just sit down in a comfy chair in another room and I put on a little quiet piano music, quiet. And I just kind of sit there stupefied. I mean, really just trying not to fall asleep. But gradually, I kind of wake up listening to the music and I'll start thinking of things. So thoughts will occur to me. It's not that I'm working on things. I'm not working on problems, but things occur to me. I have some of my best ideas then. And by supper time, which might be an hour and a half or even as much as 2 hours later, I'm in a good mood and I'm wide awake and I feel I've accomplished something. And a lot of the accomplishment is this last time, just sitting thinking. Thoreau knew nothing about the internet, but he noticed the problem of too much connectedness. And he suggested that we find strategies to enable a balance, right? His advice on the internet is turn it off sometimes. Turn it off sometimes. Don't let yourself be. And the trouble, of course, with our youth is often they never turn it off. So, done. And now, for the support of this congregation, the morning offering will be gratefully received and I hope freely given. We come to our time of sharing joys and concerns. The theory is that joy shared is multiplied and a concern shared is divided.
No, I just, had honeydew this morning, which we always, visit on our way here. I had 3 different people ask me to say a prayer for them. So, say a prayer for them.
I would like to say a concern. I think everybody will understand, but our beloved friend here, Eric, if we all can give it a moment of silence and just all give a prayer for him to get strong and healthy again, so we can have him back here in our church and our family. We all love you, Eric. We know you're out there. We know you're listening. Please, let's all give it one deep thought of joy.
Hymn number 4 was written by a Universalist minister named Max Kapp, and he wrote it for the music of the love song, Drink to Me Only with Thine Eyes. And when our present hymnal was put together, I have this for someone who was in the room at the time. Someone said, "Oh, we have to change the tune. I mean, that's a drinking song. We can't have a drinking song." It's not a drinking song. It's a love song whose first word is drink. So we have this not great tune in our hymnal because of this person. So let's sing it to its original tune. So if you know how to read music, don't. But the words are in the hymnal, but we're going to sing it to the original music. The original tune. My spirit to the sea, I stood upon the shore. I gazed upon infinity, I heard the waters roar. Wait. It's 2 verses for the whole music. And there came a sense of peace. I'm sorry. Okay. That was me. We're going to start all over.
All right. One more time at the top. Let's see.
I brought my spirit to the sea. I stood upon the shore. I gazed upon infinity. I heard the waters roar. And then there came
Some ancient ministry of stars that made my spirit whole. I brought my spirit to the trees that touched the mountains and sea. I left you hungry, careless breeze to know if God was mine. And then I felt an inner flame that fiercely burned my tears. Upright I rose from bed bended knee to meet the passing.
May ours, may ours be a religion that, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Okay, now it's time to take out that insert into your program. And this song, On the Old Fall River Line, came, first I've ever heard of it just a week ago at the Congregational Church Friday afternoon, noon hour, once a month, they have an organ concert there. And let's see, I'll play the organ, do all that, and afterward, there were a dozen or more people standing around the reception. And a couple of the Fall River people somehow started talking or singing a really good song. And so I went home with the Fall River line, and but she went on the internet. And if you have the cover, here's the cover of the sheet music here from 19 whatever it is, something like 1905 or whatever. And this music by Harry von Tilzer. Turns out that Harry's brother was also a musician, composer, and wrote Take Me Out to the Ball Game. So anyway, we're not going to sing that one, but we are going to sing On the Old Fall River Line. And let's see, there's verse, chorus, is how we're going to do it. So verse 1 in the chorus, and then verse 2 in the chorus. Nancy will play an introduction, and away we'll go. Take a trip to Boston. It's fun, sailing up the bay boys. I was on the upper and I met my rest of the concert last week was a little more high